Yo, what's up guys, hope you guys are doing good. So today we are going to see what if Banished Naruto find his parents were alive part 2. Hope you will enjoy this video, so before we start please like the video and subscribe to our channel and hit bell notification, it motivates me to upload more fanfics for my lovely audience. So let's get started. For most, seeing an emperor hugging a daughter of 4th Hokage and his wife, a container for Kyuubi and a wife to his former rival from the times now ignored and forgotten by many, would have been something of a shock. But to Narumi Namikaze, this was a meeting she was longing for a long time, as it has been over a year since she talked with Naruto in person, and this waiting was hard for her. Especially considering in the fact that Narumi was not like her family and Konoha in a simple, yet completely defying aspect of her character. Narumi, since her childhood, was always one of those children with the curiosity and the need to ask the age-old question, what is right and what was wrong. Growing up in a seemingly loving and caring environment, she and her brother were shaped up by their father to make both of them able to control Kyuubi's power, as well as being loyal and loving towards their homeland, Konoha. Control over Kyuubi, loyalty to family and Konoha, expanding over the natural talents and gifts that they received, those were the main cornerstones in their upbringing. And while Menma took to it all like a fish to the water, Narumi was always more curious and interested in details, so she questioned all that her mind could grasp. Initially, it was seen as a positive thing by her father and mother, a child eager to learn more from her parents. And Minato with Kushina did try to answer it all, but before long, Narumi began to ask questions about first the Kyuubi, why was it imprisoned and why it was evil, which led Minato to talking about her and Kyuubi's importance to Konoha and world peace. At first Narumi accepted this and calmed down, but not long after, she became an unwanted witness to a fight between her mother and father, with the subject being her believed to be dead brother, Naruto. It was then when Narumi learned that she had another brother, and that her parents had left in Konoha, alone, without anyone, and that he was the shield that protected Narumi and Menma, a diversion to prevent all others from hurting them. For Narumi, brought up in the environment of love and care for family, this was a shock, an absolute crush of her beliefs and idealism. She and Menma were told that Naruto was gone the moment he was born, taking with him the soul of Kyuubi and leaving them the power to wield, but now Narumi knew the truth. Parents didn't see her, as she had hid herself away, and soon after that, Namikaze family returned to Konoha, where they were hailed as heroes and saviors. Menma was practically drowning in all this adoration, but Narumi didn't, for all her thoughts were with Naruto and she wanted to meet with him, to talk to him and connect with him. But it was all too late, as he was banished, like a discarded kunai, having served his purpose and now useless, with her mother and father accepting it as something normal, and Menma scoffing at Naruto's memory. But to Narumi, this was another crush of ideals and the reveal of the duplicity and hypocrisy of her family in Konoha. She hid all her growing hatred and away and made sure to not show it outright, but she no longer saw her family with the bright colors as before. Her father was a hypocrite, determined to see Konoha on top with Narumi and Menma serving that purpose, ignoring the fact of his betrayal of his own blood. Her mother, who had so fervently and ferociously defended Naruto and spoke about the injustice done to her and him, did nothing to change it all and still remained with Minato, being a loyal and faithful wife to him and still being on his side. And Konoha, Narumi didn't see the ideal place to live in, but a cesspool of betrayal, arrogance and hypocrisy, among which few of those that were truly loyal to true will of fire remained and from whom she learned of what kind of person her brother was. Kind, loyal, brave, headstrong and with a heart so great, that not even the mistreatment of this village could break him, ready to do everything for his village and friends. It wasn't long until Narumi grew to first respect, and then admire her brother. Over years, Narumi only grew in hatred and disgust with Konoha, hiding it away, and she had sought out to get close to her brother's former teammates, hoping that they were still loyal to him as he was to them. Narumi couldn't have been more wrong and she now cursed them and herself for falling in love with Sasuke, being his wife and enduring 8 years of beatings, mistreatment, rape, and even loss of a child. When Minato had dismissed it all and told Narumi to simply keep on the appearances, that was when Narumi understood that to her father, she wasn't as much a daughter as she was a product for his plans, with Menma not seeing it. And when she had tried to tell her mother the truth of what had happened, Kushina simply said to her child that she was overreacting and that it was normal for Narumi to be feverish, and that Sasuke loved and cared about her. Narumi simply couldn't believe that her mother, after all that had happened to her and how her husband had deceived her, would go out of her way to keep up the appearance of all being well, when she could clearly see it was not like that. Her husband lied to her, Menma was an arrogant and spoiled brat, and Narumi was being abused, raped and nearly killed on several occasions by her own husband. And Kushina, blind and deaf to the pleas of her daughter, kept the appearances, speaking out of the injustices for Naruto, yet siding ultimately with Minato, just to keep their family together. She had failed to realize that there was no family to be saved and salvaged, and Narumi had only hoped that she could have gotten away from this hellhole with Naruto when he did. And suddenly, 3 years ago, just a month after her miscarriage, Kurenai Yuhi had approached her and told Narumi that there were still some people that saw the injustice and corruption towards Naruto and how rotten fourth Hokage was, and even if they were hidden away, they were there, with Kurenai being one of them, and they had someone very powerful who supported them from shadows. And that someone, as soon Narumi found out, was the Emperor of Second Numenor Empire, Naruto, her own dear brother, whom she wished to meet for years, and now did, thanks to his spies and magi, who opened the portal from Konoha to Numenor. Their first meeting was at first awkward and strange, but as they spoke, Narumi and Naruto grew closer as true brother and sister, with Narumi finding comfort in someone who supported her truly. He had confessed to her that for years his spies and agents watched the situation in Konoha and also kept an eye out for her, and that he knew well of her and what had happened to her. Naruto had offered her and some others a way out of Konoha and into his empire, where they could build their lives and live in peace, away from the lies and hypocrisy of Konoha and dangers of shinobi life. The offer was so tempting for Narumi and Kurenai, but they refused, still holding on to some hope for Konoha, loyal to a fall to it, but also because, with their positions so close to power, they decided to inform Naruto of the plans of Konoha. They knew that as an emperor, he watched at Konoha with a careful and threatened even eye, and he wanted to make sure that Konoha would not become a threat to Numenor Empire. Narumi and Kurenai understood it well and respected it, and so they stayed, becoming his ears and eyes in Konoha for 3 years, still in contact and loyal to Naruto, but growing more and more disillusioned and hopeless for Konoha as years had gone by. Especially hard they were for Narumi, with Sasuke's raping and beatings growing more and more violent. And even Narumi had grown to endure it. She soon sought to break away from this circle of hatred, vile and hypocrisy, with Kurenai agreeing with her, as her life with Asuma didn't prove to be good for her at all, with her own husband being a duplicitous person on several layers, and only her daughter Mirai and an Iron Will practically keeping her from becoming the same kind of miserable person as Kushina. But now, both young women were at an end of their endurance and hoped to get out of their personal hell. And they truly held faith that Naruto would help them. As Naruto and Narumi separated, he nodded to Kurenai with a smile, as he spoke up to them. Hope the Watchers weren't too eager in their work. Maiev is a very much capable leader of them, but even I sometimes find her dedication to justice and work to be obsessive at times. Naruto let out a sigh, as he offered his sister and his friend seats on the benches, which they took, with him and Semiramis sitting down together on the other one. So, Narumi, Kurenai, what was it that you wished to discuss with me in person? Your message said that it was urgent. And from what my independent sources from Konoha told us, there doesn't appear to be any indication of threat from Konoha and Hai no Kuni to Empire and its interests, so this must be something personal. Semiramis noted out, with Narumi and Kurenai looking at Semiramis with surprise, hearing of this for the first time. You have your own spies in Konoha? Narumi asked of her curious, with Semiramis simply nodding at this one. I thought that Naruto only had those of Shadow Guard working there, but he mentioned nothing of your spies there, sister. Narumi, Kurenai, I hope that you do not take any offense to this revelation. The truth of the matter is that Black Dragonflight has its spies all over the world, including the elemental nations, and they were there for ages, long before the man you called God of Shinobi had founded Konoha. Naruto only learned of it after we married, but he kept quiet for me. Semiramis explained to the women. Other dragonflights may be reactionary in nature, but the blacks prefer to prevent catastrophes from happening when there is only seed of it taking root. I learned that lesson well, when my father's madness nearly cost me and my brothers and sisters their sanity and lives. Please do not think that I do not trust humans and other races, I do, and Naruto is most certainly one of a kind husband, but, younger races, as I've learned, have a tendency to self-destruction, which I find to be disturbing. When you think about it, we do have it in us. Narumi didn't argue with a far superior in wisdom and experience creature. Anyway, what we wanted to talk about, Naruto, that offer, the one you made to me and Kurenai 3 years ago, does it still stand? Naruto and Semiramis exchanged the looks between each other, before Naruto spoke up, voice as strong and determined as ever. It does, for both of you. Both of the women sighed in relief, with Naruto continuing. I know that you hate to hear this, but I did warn you that you wouldn't be able to do it for long. Especially considering what Asuma and Sasuke really were. Can't blame your sister for trying to repay to you for not being there for you when you needed it most. Narumi argued in her favor, with Naruto shaking his head at this one. She is right, Naruto. Both she and I didn't do anything to help you when we knew we couldn't. Kurenai had tried to support Narumi, but Naruto stopped them in their tracks. Neither of you hold no debt or any blame for what had happened to me. I know full well who are to blame for what had transpired with me and whom not to, and I do not hold any ill against those that didn't stand up to them. Naruto simply stated to them with full seriousness. And I won't hear any more of your guilt and reasoning. I am getting you out of Konoha for good, and since you now want it, that just makes it a bit easier to do, especially with a blunder that Konoha had just made in here. I know for a fact that it wasn't father's idea to use that genjutsu on you. All he and others had wanted was to get on your and others' good side and make you sway the emperor on Konoha's side. Narumi informed Naruto and Semiramis. It could have been Sasuke, sure, but after what I and others saw with Danzo. That genjutsu was Danzo's handwork, Koto Amatsukami of Shisui Uchiha. Suddenly, from the trees appeared a royal guard, wearing a lighter variant of their armor, with a white katana at his side, with his face being closed by helmet, which muffled his voice a bit. Over 17 years ago, Danzo had orchestrated the destruction of Clan Uchiha, having manipulated Third Hokage and Council into isolating them and provoking them into a rebellion. All of that was so that he could gain the Sharingan and Mangekyo Sharingan, one of which he placed in his right eye socket. His Imperial Majesty was well informed of this for a long time, and I have warned him of the possibility of Danzo using Koto Amatsukami on him. To which my dear wife and Empress, along with all of my Imperial Royal Guards were most ready. Naruto noted out to them all. Still, I did expect that the moment Minato and others hear about me and my friends being here, odds would be in favor of them manipulating me to their favor. Wouldn't be the first time someone had tried that card on me, and I suspect it won't be the last. Anyway, Anko, what measures have been taken with Danzo? Lady Maev had ordered a complete suppression upon his chakra, surgical removal of that arm and the Sharingan in his eye. After that, he was subjected to our usual program of interrogation and questioning, the usual stuff. Anko replied simply to her emperor. From what the interrogators found out, that arm was transplanted to him with the help of Orochimaru, in order for Danzo to control some strange visual jutsu of Sharingan, which could grant him an immortality of sorts. Azanagi, a genjutsu casted upon oneself at the cost of the casting eye. It rewrites the laws of reality for a limited time, allowing for a person to live after being killed. The guard informed Naruto and Semiramis, as well as others. It is a forbidden among Uchiha's jutsu, among both the eastern and western clans. There are even special punishments for usage of this jutsu, as it is capable of easily corrupting with the illusions of invincibility its users. However, what Danzo has done. There is only one punishment for his crimes and what he had attempted today, and that is death. Semiramis said with strength and no compromises in her voice, turning to Anko. Is Danzo being interrogated still? Yup. By Lady Maev herself in attendance, and it seems like old Sneaky Snake has a lot of secrets to reveal to us, and he isn't through yet. He did try to use some suicidal fuinjutsu to take himself and half the palace with him when we first brought him to question, but good thing that Kaoru had allowed a couple of her people in the Watchers, so the crisis was averted. Anko replied. Should I go back and tell her that he is to be disposed of immediately? No. Squeeze out of his mind and body every ounce of information that you can, and after that, throw him into an isolated cell. He will be executed, publicly and in front of Konoha's delegation a day after tomorrow. As for the delegates, you do your duty, Anko. Naruto said to her, with Anko nodding to him. Now, as for getting you two out of Konoha. With the situation as it is, you two can ask for a political protection and safe haven from Konoha, the basis being the mistreatment and violence being used against the two of you, along with the proof of it being provided by you in the interrogation. With those at hand, Konoha and Hai no Kuni won't be able to pressure me or Numenor Empire into giving you back, and with what Danzo pulled out here, they should consider themselves lucky with getting out of this hellhole so easily. Kurenai, I remember that you now have a daughter, and she is also welcomed in here, my mages, and will take care of the getting her into the Empire. Naruto, there is something I would like to ask you to do. Narumi spoke up to her brother, with Naruto nodding to her. Please, extend this offer to our mother as well. Naruto widened his eyes at this one, but said nothing, as he rose up and slowly paced a little, not turning his head to face his sister and others. Kushina Namikaze, she was a very touchy subject for both of the siblings to talk about, with both being biased towards her in their own way. Naruto, much like with Minato, did not believe that she really even cared about his existence, while Narumi had always tried to prove to him that he was wrong in that belief. True, Naruto's views had changed somewhat about Kushina towards better, but he wasn't very much longing for a reunion with her, nor was he impressed with how she had handled the situation with him and what had happened to Narumi. When Naruto had found out about what happened to Narumi from his agents, it was one of the few moments when he had snapped from his simple observation of Konoha and made a move to teach Sasuke a lesson. The next time Sasuke had left the village for a month-long mission, a fully armed company of shadow guards, led by now present royal guard, had waited for him and captured him. How easy it was to make up a simple rank solo mission, to lure Sasuke Uchiha out of Konoha's reach and make him pay. Naruto was not present, but he made sure that his orders were carried out with a complete precision, with Sasuke being left without ability to ever conceive another child, weakened to the point being at the level of a simple chunin and the curse mark now acting more like a slowly growing cancer, only well hidden away and spreading through his body, until Sasuke's all body wasn't infected by it and then destroyed. It wouldn't be long now, miracles of magic and secrets learned from Orochimaru assure it. None knew what had happened with Sasuke, but when he returned, it was clear that he was no longer the mighty Uchiha elite that he was once, though none had dared to speak otherwise. And no one knew that Sasuke Uchiha was already a walking dead man, aside from Naruto. Naruto stopped pacing around and looked at the small patch of flowers in front of him, until he spoke up. You and I have discussed this more than once, Narumi, and you know my opinion about this subject. Naruto said in a cold and somewhat distant voice. She had said many things in my defense, but while her mouth said one thing, her actions spoke otherwise. She knew that I was alive for 2 years before I was banished, and she could have come to me back then, but did not. She could have left Minato and live a life of her own after all that he has done, but didn't. She heard all the rumors and stories about your mistreatment by Sasuke, especially from you, and what she did. Naruto said with strength and fire in his eyes. Narumi, I can understand your desire to help your mother, but after all that had happened, do you really think that she deserves this mercy? Naruto, I know how much you despise and even hate, I can understand that too. But you also need to understand that for her, our family is all that she has left. Narumi argued with him. She had lost her own clan, most of her friends and much more. Our father was there for her and with her for decades, and she had raised me and Menma, all in hopes of having something that she had lost family. And to keep that family alive, she would go to any lengths. The family that she so wishes to have and protect has long fallen apart, and she knows it. Naruto argued back to his sister. Menma, arrogant brat that abuses his position of a hero, with Ino and that second wife of his indulging him. Minato, with his world conquest plans as well as prophecies of the toads, believing he is to be a messiah for all, who ignores all morals and laws of men for his own ambitions. And then there is you, Narumi, she isn't concerned with saving and protecting her family, as she is obsessed with preserving this fickle illusion of perfection she had built in her mind, that all is well and won't break it. And even though she had heard what you said back in the cell, do you really think that she will do anything to protect you? Naruto asked of his sister, surprising her. All of our cameras are outfitted with listening and observing spells, making sure to prevent escapes from being plotted. Semiramis answered on the silent question for her husband, before turning to face her husband herself. Naruto, my love, I know and understand your resentment towards your mother, and I had faced the same, as you know. And while my mother had refused to listen to reason, her madness was assured by my father and his powers, I think that your mother may yet be redeemed. She was honest and sincere in her desire to be with you and in protecting you, and while her actions may speak otherwise, deep down she must understand that her current life can't very well continue for long. I do not know why she still keeps on the appearances, but I do know that there are those people, that in acts of desperation and to preserve even a ghostly appearance of their well-being, they will go so far as to ignore even the obvious. They are so desperate, that are unable to see that this illusion has become their own torment, and will not see the ways out of that twisted circle, unless someone shows it to them directly. You know that, do you not, my love? Naruto, I do not ask you to forgive and accept her, but, for the sake of your sister and for me, please. Semiramis knew that her husband may have his moments of rashness and fury, but even he can be swayed when need be, and she knew how to do so. Naruto looked at his wife for a few long moments, before turning away from them for a bit and thinking to himself about it all. As much as he may have despised Kushina, he could not ignore the reasoning of his sister and wife. In desperation, people will wear whatever mask to hide away their scars and to protect themselves from the harsh and cruel reality. He himself has done so for years in Konoha, and Kushina appeared to be the same way, only even worse in her case, considering that Minato was possibly the only close person ever to her, with her family also being all that she had for herself. Even though she had suffered so much cruelty, deceit and more, Naruto wouldn't past it his father to influence her through their connection, as well as her own desperation for making things right for her family, or the majority of it. After all, sacrificing him did secure Narumi and Menma, from a practical point of view. Still, Kushina's desire to ignore all the wrong in front of her and dismiss it was troubling, but was he not the same way? He was, but what she did with Narumi, it was something that he could not ever ignore nor forgive, for hurting his sister like that, by letting her delusions take over her mind like that. He won't forgive her so easily, nor will he ever forget, but, maybe. Letting out a sigh, Naruto turned back them and spoke up. Enko, arrange for Narumi and Kushina a time alone in one of the cabinets in dungeons. Enko nodded to him, with Naruto turning to his sister. Break the news to her. Tell her that if she really wants to, she can stay here, in Numenor. However, should she use her position to help out Hino Kuni or Konoha in any way, I will not be merciful towards her, not after all that had happened. Explain it to her, sister, because I don't think that I am yet ready to speak with her, without hurting her. Narumi smiled to Naruto and nodded to him. Itachi, please escort our guests to a dining room. I imagine that they did not have their supper. Itachi nodded to Naruto and led Narumi and Kurenai through the gardens, while Anko teleported back into the twilight cells, with Naruto sitting back on the bench with his wife, shaking his head. You knew exactly what to say to me, just to make me think, didn't you? Naruto looked at his smiling wife, who merely shrugged at the suggestion, but did not lose her smile one bit. Well, it is my duty as your wife to sometimes rain wisdom and mercy upon you, my love. And with how stubborn you can be at times, it is no wonder that I require additional help with you. Semiramis joked a little, with Naruto chuckling a little at that one. Naruto, you know that it is only for the better to give Kushina a chance, let her see that there is life without Minato and Menma, without desperation and half-insane denial. A life without a mask, the one that you had always wanted for yourself. I know, Semiramis. But, sometimes the masks grow onto your skins and become inseparable from your real face. I remember how badly it was with me, when Uther just took me in. Naruto sighed as he remembered, before he turned to look in his wife's eyes. Tell me, why did you side with Narumi this time? When I first told you of how she acted, you were almost furious enough to turn back in your dragon form and go to Konoha and have words with her, but now. Let it be known, that I do admit that I am prone of letting lose my temper, at times. Semiramis admitted, though with the smallest of blushes. But, with what Narumi had told me and everything that had happened with us, I couldn't stop thinking about Kushina's situation and comparing it with what had happened with my mother. Semiramis grew a little sad, before Naruto had hugged his wife caringly, remembering how bad it was for his wife to face against her. I remember how kind and caring she was, but also how very devoted to my father she was as well. So devoted and loyal, that his way was the only one for her, a blinding loyalty with desperation, the same one as with Kushina. And whenever I think about it, I can't stop thinking that if I had been more proactive, if I had showed her the wrong Neltharion had committed, and then perhaps she wouldn't have gone mad and done so much wrong. Perhaps, I could have avoided it altogether, instead of dealing with it just a few years ago. I see where you are coming from, Semiramis. Naruto sighed, holding his wife close to him. I'll give Narumi a chance, and if Kushina agrees, then maybe I'll change my opinion of her, but do not bet on it so easily. Semiramis simply chuckled at this one, while Naruto softly put a hand upon her belly. And how does our little baby girl doing? Is she already making her presence known? You know as well as I do that she is still too early for that. Semiramis simply shook her head at this. You remember when I was having our first child, Naruto. I may have shortened the process of pregnancy with my physiology, but it still took 6 months for him to come to life, and now I am barely through the first one. I know, but you know how I get with our children, do you not? Naruto smiled to Semiramis, with merely laughed, recalling just what a soft and doting father to his children Naruto was. And I still have not forgiven you, milady, for Demon's accelerated growth, Naruto half-jokingly stated to her, with Semiramis pouting a little and puffing up her cheeks as she answered to him. It is not my fault that children of dragons and humans grow up so fast, and had I wanted to staunch his growth, I could only do so through magic, and we both would never do something like that. Semiramis was serious on this one, before spoke more softly to her husband. Naruto, we have consulted Alexstrasza and she confirmed that Demon's growth is natural for one of his origin, especially for a child of an aspect. His mind and body both grew without any trouble. For Dragon, Demon is still a hatchling, with the body of a grown human and a formed mind. And let us be honest, when compared to how Targaryens have called their children, dragons, our little dragon turned out to be just a marvelous child, and do not even dare to deny it. I would never. Whom do you take me for? Naruto chuckled at this one with his wife. I think I'm just sad that I saw our son grow up so fast. Just some 8 years ago I held in my arms and now he is of my height and I can't help but see in him not a small boy, but a grown man, one that already makes me proud. Is this even normal, for a father not being able to see his son as a small boy like he once was? For all parents it is sad, not just for you, but to me as well. Semiramis admitted. He has everything to be a great emperor after you, but I sometimes can't help but remember how he was just learning to make his first steps, or how he first talked to us, and now he is already out there, traveling the Westerosi kingdoms, learning of the empire and its subjects as well as doing his duty to the empire. I sincerely hope that he did not learn any bad habits from their king. Light knows that Bor has more of those than my father has prayers for each of the sins. Naruto shook his head at this one. Good thing that Alexstrasha***'s granddaughter is accompanying him. Those two will be alright together, two children of human and a dragon. Yes, Urza was very persistent to accompany Demon, almost as much as Irene with me to share you. Semiramis brought it up to her husband with a small wicked smile of her own. Young dear was always very much fond of our boy and now, both are physically grown and beautiful, strongly connected since their childhoods. Perhaps we should prepare the court for the news of heir to the throne soon marrying the legendary Titania of Redflight. We first need to prepare them for the news of you being with a child, my beloved empress. Naruto reminded her, with Semiramis chuckling to it. I wouldn't be surprised if the suitors for her were to show up the moment it was announced of a new princess soon being born. Remember how it was with Demon? Better not remind me of that, though now he has Urza to scare all those harlots away. Semiramis and Naruto laughed at this one. I still can't believe the gall of that Tully woman from a year ago, to push for a match between our boy and her daughter, speaking to me as if she were my own mother. Those Tullys seem to have the mind of their sigil, the trout. But, at least she was being modest, unlike that Lannister woman. Semiramis remembered with disgust Cersei and her husband, as well as the rest of Lannister family. That you are right, my beloved empress. Naruto kissed her on the cheek. Now, milady, I believe that it is time for our supper. I hear that the cook is serving your favorite for the supper. Semiramis looked at her husband with a smile and rose up with him, going with him towards the dining room and leaving any and all bad thoughts behind. Meanwhile, Westerosi Kingdoms. King's Landing. Red Keep. King's Landing, a proud capital of the former Seven Kingdoms, of which Reach and Dorne had been subjugated and integrated into a second Numenor Empire to the south, leaving only 5 kingdoms in the hold, without a real, complete independence. When Emperor Naruto had proclaimed the official formation of the Second Numenor Empire 5 years ago, an enemy to the north had risen up, to the north of Angmar, Gilneas and Lordaeron, intent to claim more lands into his own domain. That enemy was Robert Baratheon, the king of the Andals, first men, Rhoynar and protector of the realm of 7 kingdoms, who had crushed the previously ruling House Targaryen, and now was eager for more conquest, past Dorne and those 3 kingdoms that laid to the south of it, namely Angmar and Lordaeron. Robert had amassed a host of nearly 80,000 men, believing that he would be easily victorious against, whom he called, an upstart blonde prick so green, he pissed grass. However, what he did not count for was the fact that the same boy whom he underestimated wasn't as gullible or easily scared, nor was he stupid. Second Numenor Empire, unlike all other countries, relied on a regular army, professionally trained and equipped, stationed in parts throughout its regions and on the borders, with 5 legions, a main unit of the empire, numbering 10,000 men and women of infantry, 3,500 cavalry and 50 mages of various spheres in each legion, being stationed at the border with Dorne and Reach. Westerosi kingdoms did not hold any magical users in their ranks, being of more superstitious beliefs and conservative towards it and other races, while Numenor and Eriador had an abundance in magical users of all calibers, with Empire bringing their full might into the defense of its borders, along with other races contributing their own forces to the cause. Robert had started a war when he invaded Angmar to his direct south of Dorne, hoping to easily break through the guarding keeps and move towards Lordaeron to the west and south towards the center of the empire. However, he underestimated the strength of the legions and their commanders, all of whom were just recently blooded and tested during the Great War, along with Magi proving invaluable in supporting armies through portals or with healing. Along with that, the strongholds and keeps that were on Robert's path were not very easily taken, with garrisons holding to the last man and not surrendering, and even breaking through the walls took considerable effort on Westerosi's part. By the time second month of the campaign rolled in, Robert was only done with 2 forts and had laid the siege to another 3, with his army already thinning out to 70,000 strong, as Marshal of North, Tyrion Fordring, wisely used his legions and struck at Robert's weaker parts of his great army. He also made use his elite corps of High Elf Rangers, raiding Robert's supply lines and even venturing into Westerosi kingdoms to divert the attention of Robert's forces. This had stalled Westerosi king long enough in his place for 2 more months, for the real imperial army, numbering 90,000 strong, with Emperor leading them, to strike back at Robert Baratheon with his overwhelming numbers of 140,000 men. The Battle of Ironfield was the second major defeat that Robert Baratheon had suffered, but it would prove to be a decisive one for him, as his army had been broken apart and destroyed by superior forces. Naruto himself had faced off against King Robert, who by then was already a near obese man, and defeated him in single combat, but did not kill. Casualties for Naruto's forces were around 6,000 dead and 9,000 wounded, while Robert Baratheon had lost 57,000 men dead and another 10 as captives. After that crushing defeat, Reach and Dorne both rebelled against King Robert Baratheon, the former because House Tyrell saw the power of the empire and wished to be spared from the wrath of Emperor, while the latter with House Martell was eager to avenge the deaths of Elia Martell and her children. Naruto accepted both of the kingdoms into the fold of his empire, but on his own terms, which were actually well received by Tyrells and Martells. In the following 7 months, Naruto had systematically eliminated Robert's ability to raise another powerful army against him, having taken Stormlands and Westerlands, before he laid siege and took King's Landing. The city was considered to be strong enough to withstand an army the size of 100,000 at full garrison and additional forces in it, and Robert had amassed 30,000 strong in there, while Naruto only brought 55, seemingly not enough to take the city, while the rest of his forces already were taking Riverrun and moving to Vale of the Arons. However, with him were 600 magi and 500 cannons, dwarven marvels of siege warfare, freshly transported with a full division of dwarf specialists knowing how to use them. For 5 hours those cannons and magi pummeled the landing's walls and its defenders, until King Robert hadn't decided to bring the fight to Naruto and rode out with 2/3 of his forces towards him, hoping to crush them while they were of fewer numbers, but instead of doing that, they were absolutely obliterated by the might of magi and artillery, before being finished off by Naruto's army. After that, and having been convinced by his retainers, wife in his hand, Robert sought the peace and capitulated. Naruto was considerably merciful to the invader. Reach and Dorne were integrated into the Second Numenor Empire. Westerosi kingdoms were to pay 20 million golden dragons, their main currency, and to become client states of Second Numenor Empire, with Naruto now being the Lord Protector of 5 kingdoms. A merciful outcome, which nonetheless had plunged now 5 kingdoms into an absolute hellhole of an economic crisis, making them completely dependent on the trade and relations with Empire itself, while Reach and Dorne saw a great rise in prosperity, wealth and influence as subjects to Emperor. This had caused tensions between the Westerosi kingdom's ruling dynasty and Second Numenor Empire, but the lesson was well learned and remembered, and the fact that if another war were to happen with them, they would be crushed, was not ignored. So, biting their tongues, Robert Baratheon and his wife had to now contend with the presence of Demon Pendragon, prince of the Second Numenor Empire and heir to the throne, now being here on behalf of his father, and discussing the terms of the contributions being paid to his empire, along with some other matters of significant importance. Demon, though just 8 years of old in time, was in physical sense fully grown and having reached his physical adulthood at age of 5. He stood at the same as his father's height, possessing messy and spiky black hair and golden eyes, a face of his father, strong build and dressed in black with gold. He wore a black and gold coat over a white shirt, with pants and boots being made in similar fashion, with a sword with black handle being attached to his left side. Though he was young, as a demi-dragon, he was educated, smart and not so easily swayed to any side, possessing the will and clarity of mind, both of which were gifts of his mother and father. Trusted and loved by his subjects and his family, Demon took up the responsibilities of a prince and carried himself with dignity, with which he was now standing before the empty iron throne, made of 1,000 swords forged together in the flames of Aegon Targaryen's dragon. At his side stood a beautiful young woman of his own age, with long red hair, black eyes and dressed in plate armor with a blue skirt. She was Demon's closest friend, companion and, if his parents were to allow, his wife-to-be, Urza Belsirion, stepdaughter to the Emperor through his third consort, Irene Belsirion, a red dragon and a daughter of Alexstrasza. Demon and Urza heard the steps behind them and turned, seeing Cersei Lannister and her eldest son, Joffrey Baratheon, approaching them. Even though it was not the first time they saw each other, it still surprised Demon how smug and arrogant the Lannisters carried themselves, along with how incredibly alike Joffrey looked with his uncle. Almost as if Joffrey was his son instead of Robert's. Your Imperial Highness, Lady Urza, you weren't expected to arrive. Cersei spoke to them, with a bow from her and her companions, with Demon and Urza nodding to them. What brings a young man like you in King's Landing, especially not informing with a prior notice? Certain things that need clarification, Your Grace. Demon spoke with strength and resolve, not being the least intimidated by her. As you are well aware, since Westerosi kingdoms are the official client state of Second Numenor Empire, your realm is charged with paying war reparations, payment of which has come to a halt. Considering the fact that I was in Dorne, visiting Prince Doran, I have decided to personally investigate this sudden occurrence. Perhaps you could clarify as to why this has happened, along with other things, before I meet with your husband and small council. My husband is away on the hunt, so I doubt you will be meeting him anytime soon, and as for the debt, I am afraid I do not know why this has suddenly happened, but I do believe that it is only a temporary halt. Cersei stated to Demon, who simply nodded at this one. Are you for long to King's Landing? Perhaps I could invite you to a dinner with my children and me. I am sure a man of your standing would love to dine in company such as ours. A tempting offer, but one that I must refuse. Demon replied to Cersei, surprising her. I am here on official business, and I do plan on leaving as soon as the matter has been successfully resolved, though it would appear that I will not find much solution here. Demon said to Cersei, confusing her. Whilst I was in Dorne, certain rumors have reached me. Rumors of a civil war already being waged between your House Lannister and House Tully of Riverrun, and that King and his hand do nothing to prevent it. I believe you can understand that if such thing is happening out here, the Emperor will have to take action to stabilize this region, if King Robert Baratheon is incapable of as much. Your Imperial Highness, I can assure you that this conflict was started with Lady Catelyn Stark imprisoning my brother, Tyrion, for no good reason, and my father is trying to rescue him. I am sure that if you inform your father of this detail, Cersei, seeing a chance of swaying a young prince and his empire to the side of the Lannister, wished to use it, but was interrupted by Urza. And what about Hand of the King being attacked by your twin brother in broad daylight? I understand that your younger brother has been abducted by his wife, but still, to commit such a capital crime and get away with it. Had it been Hand of the Emperor attacked in such a manner, the attacker would lose his head within an hour, regardless of his status. Urza noted out, with Joffrey taking turn to speak. Who gave you, a peasant girl, the right to speak here? Joffrey arrogantly asked of her, with Urza not being the least intimidated. Do you even know who we are, girl? And as for that fool Stark being attacked, he brought it upon himself, by covering up for his bitch wife and denying my uncle to comply with the wishes of his superior. Your companion seems to be in need of learning some lessons of courtesy, Your Imperial Highness. To address us in such a manner is quite normal, considering that in status she is equal to me, being a recognized member of Imperial family and de facto, higher than you in status. Demon reminded, as he turned to face Joffrey. And you should properly educate your own son in matters of courtesy. With such a mouth and manner of speaking, he would not make a popular king. Ignoring the pitiful glare that Joffrey had sent him, Demon turned back towards Cersei. Now, if nothing else. Actually, Prince Demon, there is actually something that I would like to talk to you, if you have a moment. Demon decided to listen to what Cersei had to say. I believe you have already heard rumors that my eldest son is already betrothed to Sansa Stark of Winterfell, daughter of Ned Stark. Yes, I have heard about it. If you recall, 2 years ago, during the Tournament of Unification, there were talks about uniting the houses of Pendragon and Baratheon through a marriage, between your parents and my husband with my father. Cersei reminded him, while your parents in public had dismissed our proposal, it is still achievable. I can assure that if you convince your father to a match between your sister, Lady Rhys Belsirion, and my son, Prince Joffrey, the Crown and Lannisters will not forget your kindness, and as you know, Lannisters always pay their debts, and such a debt will be in no need of payment, because there will be a freezing cold day in Dorne before I bring this proposal before my father. Demon stated, with strength and resolve, surprising Cersei and Joffrey. Your Grace, if you think that I do not know what Game of Thrones is, you are sadly mistaken, and I am also very well aware that your house and father have nothing that could sway me. And I have no desire to be a part of your court games. My business here is clear and straight, and I intend to carry it through and be on my way out of here. Your Imperial Highness, the small council has assembled and is waiting for you. A servant has informed Demon and Urza, as he came in. Good. Time to settle this matter as well as some others. Your Grace, Prince. Demon simply nodded to them as he and Urza were on their way to the chambers of the small council. What an arrogant inhuman bastard, how dares he to talk to us like he is the king here? Joffrey nearly shouted. He and his bitch sister should be happy that I would even consider her as a match instead of that foolish Stark girl. Don't worry my lion, soon enough, he will come to see our way. Cersei assured him. His father may call himself a lion of the west and his mother is a queen of the black dragons, but he is not a full dragon, and he is a very long way from home. A lone prince, with just that little red horde to protect him, with hundreds of our swords, and 1,000 miles away from any loyal to him servants and his father, soon enough, he'll have to reconsider his decisions. The enormous crowd of people has amassed at one of the main central places of Numenor City, citizens, travelers, soldiers, merchants, priests and more. All of them had come in here to witness the justice being done and to bear witness to a foul schemer that had tried to manipulate their beloved emperor, and now was to face the executioner's blade. Rumors of what had happened in the imperial palace had spread like dragon fire in a stormy wind, and in a matter of a day, half the empire knew what had happened, along with greatly exaggerated versions. Some of the subjects of the emperor and empress even sent their official representatives to see what had happened, like Gilneas with their renowned hero, Darius Crowley, and Dalaran with their archmage Modena, along with already present representatives from all over the empire. All of them were situated at the special gallery, shared by some of the members of imperial family, Emperor Naruto himself, Emperor's hand Gabriel and his wife Varisa, Hanabi Pendragon with her father Hiashi Hyuga, and a good portion of the imperial court. Near Naruto personally stood Neji, as always at his side, Narumi, Kurenai, with her daughter enjoying the company of the empress, Kaoru Uzumaki and finally, his own mother, Kushina Uzumaki, joined to her son and daughter and standing firmly by their side, with her mind fully set and decision made, for the first time fully in 15 long years. Her talk with Narumi and Kaoru had not been a pleasant one, but it did reveal to them all many things, and let Kushina be herself once again. Flashback. Yesterday. Restricted interrogation room of Twilight section of prison. Narumi was sitting in the chair at the table, with her aunt and head of clan Uzumaki, Kaoru Uzumaki, right at her left side. The two women of Uzumaki origin knew of each other well, thanks to Naruto and his help to reconnect Narumi with the real Uzumaki clan and its true traditions and ways. Though it had taken some time and persuasion, Kaoru herself has come to see in Narumi not just Kushina's child, a child of a traitor, but a true Uzumaki and a member of her own family, even a daughter of her own at times. Kaoru had always wanted Narumi to completely let go of the elemental nations, to come fully into the West and live there, offering her a place at her side and within her family, but until yesterday, Narumi had refused, doing her duty for Naruto. Fortunately enough, Narumi was now fully ready to be a part of the real Uzumaki clan, which had brought great joy to her aunt, but when she asked her for help and explained the nature of that help, Kaoru immediately grew skeptical and doubtful. When Clan Uzumaki had migrated to the west, they were greeted by someone they least expected, Clan Uchiha of the West, who had offered them part of their own lands, help and resources to start all over, anew. Before long, Clan Uzumaki, though just half of its original numbers, has settled in and thrived in relative safety and with the alliance with Clan Uchiha of the West, and Kaoru's father had managed to solidify that alliance by marrying Kaoru to Makoto Uchiha, a match that had proven to be a happy one for both them and the clans. For decades clans had thrived together, fending off against the aggressors from the east and against the Ironborn raiders from the north. Until Naruto came, for Kaoru, to see her own sister's son, to hear his tale and what had happened to him, was a great shock. Her own older sister had sacrificed her own son for the other two and Kyuubi's power, made him a pawn. Despite what many of the Easterners may think, Clan Uzumaki wasn't such a loyal friend to Konoha, especially after learning of the fate of Mito Uzumaki and how she was used as a living prison for Kyuubi. They had helped with founding of Konoha, were among its founding clans, but instead of respect and honor, they received only horse shit, and their members only were later used as the tools for Konoha and its ambitions. Gradually, as Konoha fought and dragged Uzumaki through one war after another, the trust and friendship had soured to the point that Uzumaki were ready to break away from Konoha completely, and would have done so, had Kiri, Iwa and Kumo not attacked them in force, right after Konoha had received the next host for Kyuubi in form of Kushina. Shingen Uzumaki, father of Kaoru and Kushina and a head of Uzumaki clan, figured that Konoha was already done with them and decided to wipe them out through the hands of their enemies. Needless to say, they failed and Uzumaki had been able to get away, but at a great cost. Kaoru, as well as all of Uzumaki and Uchiha, hated Konoha with passion, but it was nor hatred that brought them to Naruto as his allies and later most loyal subjects. It was his will, inner strength and resolve to unite this land into one, a passion that burned hotter than flames of dragons. Kaoru and Makoto had pledged their clans and forces to Naruto and his cause, and when he did, uniting this land under one banner and one rule, and Uzumaki with Uchiha continue their loyal service to him. And while Kaoru had seen Naruto as nothing short of her own son, Kushina was an entirely different matter to her, as she despised and even hated her own older sister, and after Kaoru had heard of what had happened to Narumi, head of the Uzumaki really wished that Sasuke Uchiha was killed off, preferably by her. But still, despite everything that had happened, Narumi wanted to have her mother here with her and she managed to enlist Kaoru to convince her. Kaoru did not want any part in this, but after some talk with Narumi and later on Naruto, she agreed. She wasn't a fan of her sister, that is for sure, but she agreed with Naruto's conditions for Kushina's stay in here. Door inside opened up and Anko walked through with two watchers, who led Kushina, chained up and looking ragged up, but generally okay. It was a secured mystery, what watchers used in their interrogations and how they could break people, and their victims could never tell what was done to them. Kushina had already been interrogated, with healers working their magic on her to heal it, though the memories of the interrogation did remain within her. As Anko and watchers left the room, but not before putting a key on the table, near Kaoru. After that, Kushina looked at her daughter, well and dressed nicely, as well as her sister, before she spoke up. "And Narumi, are you alright? Your father and we haven't heard a thing about you since they took you away." We were worried and had thought. Kushina looked at the both for a moment, before Narumi spoke up. "I am alright, mother. Better than I had been for the past 8 years." Narumi offered her mother a seat, which Kushina accepted, though confused at her words. "You should know that yesterday I and Kurenai were taken to see Naruto. He has spoken to you. Have you told him that we had nothing to do with it, that Minato?" Kushina was already going into a ramble, before Kaoru shut her. "Be quiet, sister, because what we have to say to you is more important to you than you can even think." Kaoru stated to her with coldness. "You and your husband may not know it, but His Imperial Majesty has been keeping a very close eye on what has been going on in the East, especially in Konoha. And yes, it was he who had granted home and bright future to those that your husband saw as enemies within his village's walls. And he has extended the same offer to Kurenai Yuhi with her child, and to my niece Narumi here." Kushina looked shocked when she heard this, and she looked at her daughter in shock. "Narumi, please tell me that you didn't." "I have accepted it, mother." Narumi confirmed Kushina's worst fear. "Naruto, my real brother, he had offered me a place in here over 2 years ago, and at first me and Kurenai had not accepted it, but now, after years and years of torment and being a pawn in father's hands, I have had it, mom. Brutal beatings, endless missions, constant danger for life, loveless marriage, being a sacrifice to keep at bay the monster. I can't go on like that any longer." "Narumi, what are you saying? I know that what Sasuke had done to you was horrible, and I understand you would want a divorce, but your father and I have calmed down and talked about it all, and we believe that you should first wait and consider it all with us. And not only that, you have sworn yourself to Konoha and no Uzumaki had forsaken Konoha, and you are its shinobi. Not to mention, what about Menma, father, and me? Would you really abandon your real family? No, this isn't right, this isn't you. It must be Naruto, trying to separate us." And Kushina was already starting ramble at a half-crazed pace, before Narumi, having heard enough, rose up and slapped her mother, hard, grabbing her by shoulders and making her look her in the eye. "Mother, do you even hear what you are saying? Just yesterday, you were ready to tear out my father's throat for what he had done with Naruto, and now, what in bloody hell is wrong with you?" Exclamation mark. "Just 1 minute you are acting like a real Uzumaki should've, and now you are a damned father's fangirl, ready to stand up on your legs like a loyal dog." Narumi shouted at her in shock, with Kushina looking at her in similar shock. "Hell, you act just like when you had heard me tell you what that bastard Uchiha had done to me, when back in the cell. What is wrong with you, mother?" "And nothing is wrong with me, Narumi. I am well, and Naruto is wrong. He is trying to divide us, when he should be helping our family and his father, and not do all this." And Kushina continued to ramble on like half crazy, with Narumi looking at her with fear and shock. Kaoru also listened to it all, and the more she heard Kushina speak, the more she began to suspect that something else was also in play here. Being an Uzumaki and having married to head of Uchiha, Kaoru had learned to easily suspect and discover the subterfuge, lies and manipulations. And now her inner sense was telling her that Kushina wasn't in the clearest state of mind. Or, more appropriately, she is not using her own mind right now. Rising up from her seat, she instantly placed a paralyzing seal upon Kushina, stopping her in track, before walked behind her and lifted up her red hair, looking at her neck. What Kaoru saw there made her blood boil, as she spoke up with hatred. "That fucking bastard Minato, of course I should have known that something like that was in play here," Kaoru said with hatred, surprising Narumi. "Narumi, come here, dear. There is the answer to the madness that befell my sister." Narumi came in and looked at what Kaoru saw there. "Is that a memory alteration seal?" Narumi looked at the small seal, which Narumi was able to identify as one, having studied those with Kushina and her father. But it looks strangely altered and different, like it was made for a different purpose and it seems to have been made rashly. Correct. My dear. This isn't a memory alteration seal, but rather an enslavement seal, a modified and more advanced version of the former seal, developed by one of Uzumaki clan. The seal itself was deemed to be too dangerous and forsaken from usage, but some among us know of it, and I suspect that Kushina knew of it as well and told Minato of it. Kaoru told Narumi. This seal acts directly upon the person's mind, completely nullifying its will and carefully implanting into them a mindset of a completely submissive and controlled person. With this thing on, you can make a person think and believe everything you want, but there is a downside to it. The seal is not permanent and the will of the user will eventually overcome the seal's programming, releasing a person from the control, and if Kushina was anything like she used to be in the past, then it doesn't surprise me that this seal is looking like it is. It wasn't rushed, Narumi, but remade, at least 10 times, and the last time it was remade was just yesterday. Minato, you fucking bastard. Narumi looked in shock at her mother, and now she had realized that all this inaptitude, loss of will and power, as well as obedience to father, all of it was made by her father, who probably could not stand the idea of Kushina straying away from him and had decided to do everything in his power to keep her in check. It also provided Narumi with some answers, most prominent being why mother never left father after learning of what he had done all those years ago with Naruto, as well as many more arguments on this subject that they had, plus why she acted sedulously with her situation with Sasuke. To think that her own father had done such a thing, and not just once, but many times on her. Narumi shook her head in shame, as the tears were starting to come out of her eyes, as she turned to her aunt. Aunt Kaoru, please, free her. After all that he has done, what Konoha had done, I can't just. I know, Narumi. And I will. Kaoru's voice wasn't a steel cold or laced with anger, but with sadness and regret, as she easily dispelled and destroyed the seal, with Kushina falling in her sister's arms. Easy, easy, Kushina. The seal has been upon your mind for over 14 years now, just take your time, sister. Kushina's frame stopped shaking, as like a fog had lifted off of her mind, clearing up everything and showing the poor woman all that has happened to her and her family. And the realization of all the sins that she had committed, the betrayals, treachery and more, it had nearly broke Kushina Uzumaki, as tears began to pour out of her eyes, as she remembered everything, loss of Naruto, revelation of him living and how Minato stopped her from going to him, her compliance and how she simply followed him, how she refused to believe her daughter, when every fiber of her being screamed at her to help her. Her entire life, her whole adulthood, Kushina had been nothing more but a pawn in someone's game in others' hands, either because of her status or because of Kyuubi, and Minato destroyed her will, made her his own doll to use, all because he did not wish to see their family fall apart. Kushina had risen up on her own feet, still supported by her sister a little bit, but as the strength returned to her and tears began to fall down, her inner spirit, her will and determination, all of it had finally began to return to her. And with it all, her former haze of love for Minato and Menma had washed away, with anger and fury coming down upon it all, as her heart turned away from them and towards whom she had betrayed for so long, Naruto and Narumi. Minato had used her, made her his slave and used her as a symbol for his own cause. And Menma, he was far too much like his father now, only even more arrogant and pompous. She failed him like a mother, there was no denying it, and she failed all of her children, especially Naruto and Narumi. Her only hopes now were that they would be able to even forgive her for all she had done to them. Kushina looked at her daughter's crying form, with Kaoru unshackling her sister, which pushed Kushina to immediately go to her daughter and embrace her tightly and warmly, like a mother should, crying to her. Narumi, my sweet little daughter, I am sorry, I am so sorry, what have I done to you and Naruto, how weak I was, my sweet little girl, if only I was smarter and stronger, Kushina cried on her daughter's shoulder, before she separated from her and looked at a softer looking Kaoru. Sister, I. Say nothing more, Kushina. Kaoru stopped her. With all that had happened between Uzumaki and Konoha, with how they had abused us, and what Minato did, and how you were on their side at the start, it will take time for me to accept you back, Kushina. Why yes, I understand it. Kushina said to her, wiping away her tears. My whole clan, I had betrayed them and for what? Years and years of abuse and suffering, and then later on, I should have listened to father from the start, not been so trusting to that monkey bastard, Naruto, my son. Oh, what have I done to him? Mom, not all is lost. Narumi said to Kushina, drawing her attention. Naruto offered me and Kurenai a place here, a chance to start anew. And I have asked him to extend this proposal to you as well. Kushina looked in shock at her daughter and sister, who continued. Don't get your hopes up, Kushina. Naruto still holds the grudge for all that had happened with him, and he blames you for it. But, seeing what we had discovered here, we'll make sure to tell him everything. It will ease the tensions between you two, but you will still need to find a way to your son's heart. Kaoru told her sister. He is willing to let you stay in the Empire, and when he hears of what Minato did to you, he is sure to soften up to you, but, should you betray his trust and remain loyal to Konoha, he will not be merciful. He has lost his wife to traitors, and treason is one thing he would never forgive. No, I understand. Kushina understood them, looking at Narumi. My poor little girl, Minato and others, they've abused our clan for far too long. I'll be fucking damned if I ever let Konoha dictate me how to live. I've betrayed my family and my children for far too long and I won't do it ever again. Tell Naruto that I will do anything and everything to win his trust to me, and that I want someone examine me and my body. Narumi and Kaoru looked at her confused. After all that had happened, I want to be bloody sure that there is nothing on me that Minato or his frog pervert master had placed on me or my mind. I will not betray my children, willingly or not, never. Kaoru nodded to her, with Narumi smiling to her. Now this sounds like Kushina Uzumaki I knew once. Don't worry, we'll take of it all, and afterwards, all you'll need to worry about is making up to your son, Kushina. Kaoru assured her. And make up to him I will, Kaoru. You can count on it. Kushina had thought to herself with a determination of a true Uzumaki. End of flashback. When Naruto had heard all the details about what had happened to his mother and what Minato had done to her, he just as shocked as he was infuriated and disgusted with Minato. To use Kushina like a pawn in his games, to enslave her in such a manner and make her obedient, just because of her finding out the truth about him, the first impulse that Naruto had after hearing it all was to have Minato beheaded, but he had withheld from it, as it would serve to immediately start up a conflict between his empire and Hein no Kuni, a conflict that he wanted to avoid for now. Dealing with Danzo was justified, as it was well proven that he acted of his own behest and with Konoha and Daimyo having no part in it. Still, this has served well to Naruto, as it put Konoha in a really vulnerable position before him, and allowed him to dictate the terms of their release, which were pretty simple, yet humiliating to them. Relinquish all charges against the people of Konoha that Naruto harbors in Empire, and let Narumi, Kurenai, Mirai and Kushina go. Minato had wanted to protest, but after witnessing the Watchers and their interrogation, as well as being directly told that it was either this, or Naruto will have all of Konoha destroyed within a fortnight, Minato decided to comply, though reluctantly. Hokage and his group were also near the Imperial Gallery, with all of them looking ragged, weak and miserable, especially Sasuke Uchiha and his wife Sakura. Sasuke had not been interrogated, no, he was directly tortured by the Watchers. There was a clear and firm differentiation between interrogation and torture, and while most of Konoha's delegation were interrogated, which was in many cases worse than direct torture by Konoha specialists, Sasuke and Danzo were tortured, which was a whole different and new level from Watcher's interrogation. His frame was now thinner, covered in scars and his skin seemed paler, with his hair now having far more gray in them, and it even seemed like he was barely standing. And as for Sakura, Her head was completely gray after seeing all that has been done to Sasuke. Her hands were permanently damaged and she could not even move her fingers properly, and her tongue was gone as well, rendering Sakura completely and utterly broken, just as Naruto had wanted. The gates of the prison opened up and from there came a squad of 12 watchers, led by a night elf woman in armor and black cloak, completely covering her frame. They were escorting Danzo Shimura, with one hand, one eye and completely deprived of his powers. He was no longer the symbol of dark might of Konoha, but just a feeble, broke old man without anything to call his own, and his dreams were shattered completely. All he now could do is accept his death with dignity. He was led to the execution podium, as a big, near-giant orc, with tusks of a great beast on his shoulders and black pants as his garments and with a big, one-sided great axe, with fangs on the opposite to the blade side. He was completely bald, with yellow eyes, and looking as menacing as it could be. He was a son of one of Orc's chieftains, sent in here to represent the voice of Orcs alongside some of his brethren, along with serving as one of royal guards to Naruto. He not always liked to wear his armor, but he did so, as Garrosh Hellscream, son of Grom Hellscream, always did his duty, and now it was to execute this cur. He placed his axe near his bent victim, as Gabriel Windrunner addressed the people of the city. Good people of Numenor, the man you see before all of you has come to our lands as an ambassador and herald of his lord, daimyo of Land of Fire. However, instead of good grace and humbleness, he came with deceit and spite. He and his comrades here had conspired to turn our emperor away from our partners and friends, to make us go back on our trust to those we are loyal to. Their schemes have been found out, but this man had the gall to use a visual jutsu, that would enslave all on whom it was casted down. The people immediately roared in indignation and fury, before Naruto silenced them personally, raising his hand and calming them. Fear not, good people, for I stand here before you, unharmed and as strong as ever. I know that news of this have spread far and wide, but let me make this crystal to all my loyal subjects and my enemies, hidden and known, that the Emperor Naruto Pendragon stands here before his people, and that he will never succumb to any sorcery or schemes, that intend to poison my mind. The crowd cheered for their emperor. And this man, this warmonger and deceiving liar, shall now face what all of his kind deserve, justice and retribution for their sins. With that said, Naruto looked right in Garrosh's eyes, giving him a curt nod, to which Orc grinned in joy, as he grabbed his axe and easily brought it upwards for the swing. Without even the right of the last word, Garrosh's axe went right down for Danzo's neck. A gory howl sounded the square, as Orc's weapon severed the head from the body of Danzo, ending his life in a single swing of the blade and putting an end to any and all of his schemes that he may have had. Konoha looked in mortified expression at all this, while Naruto and his group were already leaving the gallery and moving inside towards the palace. At Naruto's side came Hiashi, who had aged and no longer projected the look of a stern and cold head of Hyuga clan, but was now a man of softer heart and soul, living the life of peace and watching from sidelines with satisfaction how his clansmen had went away from their ways of war and integrated into peace, along with raising his granddaughters. Hanabi joined them as well, as they began to talk. I had always considered Danzo to be a main threat to the security and prosperity of Konoha, despite what he had claimed. His views on others and methods were nothing short of suicidal, in my opinion. Hiashi noted out to Naruto, who listened to him. Not to mention his root Anbu and all those many schemes he pulled of, with Uchiha in particular, the man would have been the end of Konoha, had he been made a Hokage. Yet, those same views and ideals of his were shared by many. Including the current Hokage, Naruto nearly spit that word out. With the way things are in the East, it wouldn't surprise me if we were forced to sail there and put an end to Land of Fire's world conquest. Great famine had hit them very hard and delayed any conflict at least for 5, maybe even 7 years, but still that war is coming, and Minato will be the one to bring it. I can see what troubles you. If Konoha wins those wars and subjugates the Northern Alliance, there will be only minor lands to take and the Numenor Empire here to take. Hiashi deduced. I can understand why you want to avoid the war, Naruto. None out here have fought and bled as much for this empire as you have, to bring peace and prosperity to this war-torn land. However, as the old saying goes, if you want peace, be ready for war. Naruto ended for Hiashi. This was the first thing I learned as king of Numenor Kingdom all those years ago, and this has saved me from having Angmar and Lordaeron pillaged and destroyed by Robert Baratheon. I have no illusions that peace will last forever, Hiashi, but I will not declare war unless there is a good reason to do so. First order of business now would be stabilization of Westerosi kingdoms and securing our borders with ogres, along with securing our sea lines with Iron Isles. Yes, that does seem to be more urgent matters to attend to. Hiashi agreed with him, as they all had entered the palace grounds. Now then, I had been meaning to ask, if your Imperial Majesty and your dear family would be willing to visit my manse, for a respite from the city. It has been quite a while since I saw Himawari and Shuri, along with the rest of your children, and in my age, you wouldn't know when it would be your last day. Father, again with your usual song. Hanabi looked at him accusingly, while Naruto simply chuckled with Hiashi. I won't hear any of this talk, are we clear? Ever again, and yes, I believe that we will do so, and children will be happy to get out of city for a few days. Hanabi looked at Naruto, who only nodded at this one with a smile. Now, mind telling me what shall be done with Konoha's delegation and how should I handle them? I am due to meet with them in an hour, so what is your decision on this matter? The same as it had been, Hanabi. Tell them that they will depart for their continent in 2 days and that I will hear no more of it. If they wish to come again, they are welcome to do so on the anniversary tournament of unification in 7 months' time from now. Naruto surprised Hanabi with this decision. Personally, I would like not to have any more works with them, but Semiramis insisted on this. She would not tell me why, but knowing her, it is best I sometimes not ask for answers on questions that will be answered in due time, as she likes to tell me. Naruto's group began to disperse through the palace, and soon enough he was left alone for a bit, as he headed towards the gardens, deciding to have a little bit of personal time, with Neji being dismissed by him for a time. It did not take him long to reach them, but once he got there, he saw something that brought a smile to his face. His eldest daughter, a small copy of Hinata, Himawari, was playing around with younger boy, her half-brother, who inherited both the looks of his father and mother. Much like Naruto, he had a similar shaped face, but it was more gracious and elven, with his eyes brighter blue and glow, along with elongated ears, and lighter tone of his blonde hair. He was Naruto's 4th child, and his 2nd son, born from a union with his high elf consort, Kirin Pendragon Windrunner, who was actually supposed to be with his mother visiting her homeland of Quel'Thalas. Smiling, Naruto stepped closer and spoke up in a bit of a playful tone. Do my eyes deceive me, or is it my small ranger I see trying to kidnap his sister? Both Himawari and Kirin turned to face Naruto, smiling to him. Papa. Both of them ran to him and hugged him, with Naruto hugging both of them, while kissing his daughter's cheek. Now, Kirin, while I am very happy to see you playing with your older sister, what are you doing in here, young man? Should you not be with your mother in Quel'Thalas, and if so, how come are you here and you two are playing with any adults watching over you? Naruto asked of his son, though he probably knew the answer to those questions, and he knew that at least 5 watchers were watching over the kids. Mama said that you were not well, Papa, and she wanted to come here really fast, so we stepped through magic gates and came here. Kirin explained to his father. And we are not alone. Mama would never even think about leaving her son and his sister unsupervised. Voiced an elegant, beautiful, yet a little bit strict voice of Kirin's mother, making Naruto stand up and turn to face her. Before Naruto stood a tall, slender beauty of a woman, very closely resembling Verisa, but with blonde bright hair, dressed in green and black, with a blue marking over her left eye. She once was in Still Quel'Thalas Ranger General, who had originally began as an enemy of Naruto, when he moved towards Dundane with his forces, intending to make peace and alliance with High Elves. The conflict between elven and human kingdoms raged for many centuries, and it was high time that Naruto made peace, but before that, he would have to fight a civil war between the ruling Sunstrider dynasty and House Windrunner that risen against them in Dundane. Having supported Windrunner faction, Naruto helped install peace and prosperity by letting a more modern and amicably oriented house take over in power, with Sylvana's Windrunner becoming the Queen of Quel'Thalas, with her husband being the last of Sunstrider dynasty and one of her supporters, Herandel Sunstrider. Soon after that, as a sign of friendship and loyalty, Quel'Thalas willingly joined Naruto's empire, and Sylvana's elder sister, Illyria Windrunner, became his consort, one of his most trusted generals, and before long, a mother to their son Kirin. And if there was something that Naruto had learned about Illyria, is that her loyalty and love towards him were undisputed, as well as the strength of her character. She looked at her husband without even giving away a single emotion on her beautiful face, until she spoke up. Imagine my horror and shock when I heard from ladies of the court that my husband, father to our son and my love, has been attacked and nearly made into a puppet of a foreign delegate. Leaving all of our belongings, I had my sister's mages teleport both of us here, and now I find you here, well and safe. Illyria blinked a couple of times to him, before she turned to the kids. Hima, why don't you show Kirin those flowers that you and Verisa had grew here? Your father and I need to talk about adult things. Himawari, though just about 10 years old, already knew that her father was in trouble and that it was best she and her brother didn't see it, so she led Kirin to the other side of the garden, safely away from his mother's righteous fury. Well, there goes my two best shields in the realm against Illyria's fury, Naruto mentally sighed, as he looked his wife in the eyes and spoke up. Illyria, my love, I know that you are angry with me and angry with you. Oh, my dear husband, I am not angry with you. I am more annoyed with your carelessness, for which you will have to answer later, but who I am really angry are those damned mongrels that had dared to attack you in such manner. Illyria finally showed her fury in display to Naruto, who took seemingly without flinching. Give me a single good reason why I should not take my bow and arrows and show them what it means to attack the Emperor and how you pay for it. The man responsible for it has been executed just half an hour ago, and as for the rest of delegates, they've been introduced to watchers and their interrogations, and as we both know, it is in many ways worse than death. Naruto assured Illyria, softly taking her hand into his. Illyria, I was careless, yes, and I am very sorry that I had you worried. But you know that there first be snow in Dorne before I became careless enough as to let them control me, especially with Semiramis, royal guards and all others protecting me. Although, to be fair, without you, my fiercest beauty, I do feel a bit more vulnerable. Naruto smiled to her, with Illyria proudly turning her head away, though with a bit of a blush on her cheeks. Humph, of course you should feel that way, or have you forgotten who was it that saved you all those times during your eastern campaigns with ogres? Neji is good and all, but my rangers and I made sure that no assassin got close within 1,000 yards to you. Illyria reminded to him, with Naruto chuckling to her. Now, how do you compensate for all my worrying for you? Beware, that I, without even letting her finish, Naruto swiftly grabbed Illyria's waist and pulled her to him, their lips meeting each other. Though by all rules, Illyria should have been infuriated by this action, but deep down inside, she was mellowing at the touch of her husband and the affection. She was a high elf, a noble woman and a military one, but even so, she was a woman and extremely loyal to her husband. She could act with dignity, wounded pride and honor, but deep down, as they both knew, she had a soft and tender heart. Their relation may have began as just politics, but soon enough, their love bloomed and Illyria swore to protect it at all costs, as did Naruto. She didn't push away, but pulled closer, letting him hold her close to her and love her, as they closed their eyes in a loving and passionate kiss. Had they not been in gardens, But in their chambers, Illyria would not waste time and ravage her husband, but for now, this was enough after a month absence. Plus, the nights were starting to become longer. They had separated after the need of air become stronger, with Naruto looking lovingly at his consort and gently rubbing her cheek, Illyria taking that hand in her palm with a smile. I missed you, Illyria. Naruto admitted to her. Next time, we both will be going to Quel'Thala's. I hear it is beautiful in winter times. And warmer than Numenor. And I missed you too, my love. Illyria embraced her husband, who answered on this affection. I'm surprised that I found Himawari alone and saddened. She is usually with Demon in this time of day, with him tutoring her in literature. Is he away? He is. Demon and Urza had departed from Numenor to Dorne, having been invited by Doran, and after that he decided to find out what has happened with the payments from Westerosi kingdoms, since they are long overdue. He should be in King's Landing now. Naruto told her, with Illyria looking at him with a troubled look. Illyria, what is wrong? Naruto, while was at my sister's court, one of merchant captains came to the court and told that there is a civil war going on in Westerosi kingdoms. Naruto immediately widened his eyes at this one. According to him, House Lannister is invading Riverlands and that Lady Stark had taken one of Lannisters as a prisoner for something. The war is contained within Riverlands, but with Lannisters practically ruling the landing. Your Imperial Majesty, milady, pardon the interruption. Both Naruto and Illyria turned their heads and saw Arthur Dane standing before them. Her Imperial Majesty requests your immediate presence in the throne room. There is a guest from Westerosi kingdoms, wishing for an audience with you. Do you know who is this visitor, Sir Arthur? Naruto asked of him with the knight nodding. I do. He is one of the knights of the Aben Blade and Ned Stark's son, Jon Stark, whom you legitimized by your personal edict. Naruto remembered him well, as he had become a student to one of Naruto's closest friends among those knights, Jeor Mormont. In the West, with so many types of magic, many orders and organizations have arisen to regulate their usages and to serve many other purposes. One of the eldest and most respected is the Order of the Aben Blade, founded long before the days of the First Empire and even Westerosi kingdoms. This order had been created by first men, Magi of North, local magical populace and even black dragons as to combat and defeat an extremely powerful enemy from the north of North, the White Walkers as they were known. Those creatures commanded the powers of the ice, wind, and death itself, raising literal hordes of dead as their armies, and determined to destroy the world of the Southerners for no apparent reason. Semiramis told Naruto that she had quickly recognized that threat and along with her dragons, she decided to give humans of Westeros a way to battle them, by teaching them a portion of the walkers' magical abilities and teaching them to fight them. And so was born the Order of the Aben Blade for their black as night swords and the fact of them wearing black armor and clothing, and these men proved to be devastatingly effective against the walkers, and with the help of dragons, they were exterminated forever. After that had been done, Order had not disbanded, instead becoming defenders of the realm from magical threats, monsters and many other threats. In many ways, they were similar to Order of Argent Hand, to which Naruto was a member, but Knights of Aben Blade used their own ways of magic and generally were neutral in squabbling of the kingdoms. Naruto, as the emperor, was a supporter of the order and greatly helped them, for which they pledged their allegiance to him. Still, to have a Knight of Aben Blade so far down south was something really uncommon. And with what Illyria had told him just now, let's hear what he has to say. Naruto agreed, as he went towards the throne room. A few minutes later. Throne room. It didn't take long for Naruto to reach the throne room and take his seat next to Semiramis, who greeted him with a serious look. Naruto looked at Jon Stark, who hasn't changed much since he saw him last. Tall, long black hair, definite Stark features, dressed in black plated armor with furs and a sword strapped to his belt. Naruto spoke up to the young man, who knelt before him. A Knight of the Aben Blade is always a welcome sight in Numenor. Rise, Esser. Naruto told him, with Jon standing up. Jon Stark, remember your father, Lord Eddard Stark, very well. An honorable and honest man, and a great warrior, according to Sir Arthur Dane and my Lord Commander of Royal Guard, Sir Barristan Selmy. I thank you for your kind words, your Imperial Majesty. My father has always spoken highly of you as well, and he wished to thank you for allowing me to be part of House Stark officially by your edict. It is a great honor you have shown to me. Jon bowed again to him, with Naruto smiling to him. You have shown yourself as a good warrior and honorable man during the Tournament of Unification a year ago. Managing to advance to 1/8 of the finales and even lasting one of the longest times against Lord Gabriel Windrunner is nothing short of most impressive in your age. Naruto commended the young man. There was little reason for me not to give you a status of a legitimate Stark with your qualities and accomplishments. Not to mention that the old Bear Mormont had vouched for you, and he is man with a good eye for good men. Now, Jon Stark, what brings you to our court and why have you requested an audience with us? Your Majesties, as you know, Order of the Ebon Blade is pledged to protecting the realm from inner and outer threats, be they magical or not. Knights of our order swear to be impartial to all lords and kingdoms and serve the greater good of all realms, free from politics and court games. Jon reminded to Naruto and Semiramis of it. Lord Commander Jeor Mormont had pledged the loyalty of our knights to you, as the man who serves the realm and protects it. And though we are impartial to wars of men, he believes that you must know what is going on in Westerosi kingdoms. My consort, Illyria Windrunner, has brought some troubling news about the rumors of a civil war going on out there, between Westerlands and Riverlands. Semiramis looked with troubled gaze in her husband. Tell us, are these rumors true or false, Jon Stark? I am sorry, Your Imperial Majesty, but they are the reason why I traveled via teleport here south. These rumors are true. This confirmed the worst fears of Naruto and Semiramis. Some 3 weeks ago, Lady Catelyn Stark had abducted Lord Tyrion Lannister, accusing him of conspiring to kill my younger brother Brandon Stark. She had taken him to her sister to the Vale, and Lord Tywin Lannister called in the banners and marched to Riverlands. Along with that, my father, Lord Eddard Stark and King's Hand, was attacked and nearly killed by a Kingsguard, Jaime Lannister, who fled the city soon afterwards. The Kingslayer, a man without any honor or loyalty, except for himself and his family. Older voice of Barristan Selmy spoke up, drawing the attention of Emperor and Empress. Your Majesties, Arthur Dane and I can confirm that it is something that he would do, as this man holds true only to himself. We will believe in your words, Lord Commander. Semiramis said to him, before she turned to Jon Stark. Sir Jon, if what you are saying is true, then why King Robert Baratheon hasn't taken any actions to prevent such chaos, and why have your father, Hand of the King, allowed this to happen? I am sorry, Your Imperial Majesty, but I hold no answers to that. All I know is that Tywin Lannister is ravaging the Riverlands and River Lords have been defeated in several battles. Soon enough, the North will come south to defend its allies, as will the Vale probably. Order of the Ebon Blade will not take sides in this war, but Lord Commander wishes to spare the Westerosi kingdoms another destructive war, so he sent me here to tell you this and ask you to regulate this situation before it got out of control. Jon informed Naruto. He trusts that as the Lord Protector of Westerosi kingdoms, you will find the best solution to it all. We thank you for this valuable information, Sir Jon Stark. Stay and enjoy the hospitality of the capital, as our guest. Sir Alaric, show to Sir Jon the guest quarters. Said High Elf Royal Guard bowed and led young Northerner through the halls, while Naruto and Semiramis exchanged worried looks. Demon is in the King's Landing, dealing with the small council and King Robert withholding from paying his debts. Naruto informed Semiramis, who nearly widened her eyes at this one. With Lannisters going at the Tullys, and Catelyn Stark holding that Lannister, the capital is going to become a powder keg, and our son is right in the middle of it all. He and Urza need to get out of there immediately. I have someone in the King's Landing, one of my younger sisters. I'll contact her immediately and tell her to get our boy out of there immediately. Semiramis immediately went out of the throne room, to make contact with her sister, while Naruto called to him his royal guards. Sir Arthur, inform High Lord Gabriel to assemble Marshal of North, Archmages of Dalaran, Admirals of Kul Tiras, Gilneas and of our 2nd and 5th fleets in the war room in an hour. The said man immediately left to find Emperor's hand. Demon, please be safe out there, and get me representatives from Lannister, Tully and Stark houses, and King's representative immediately. I'll have words with them all. Naruto wasn't going to let his own holdings in the north spiral down into a chaos. Meanwhile, King's Landing, throne room. Demon had suspected that there would be some interesting things happening here and there in Westerosi kingdoms, but he most certainly did not expect nor plan to find himself in the middle of a political coup d'état, instigated by Lannisters, right after King Robert's death. And all had started out well enough. He managed to get his explanation and assurances of immediate payment from Eddard Stark, Hand of the King, and later on even dined with him. Oh, if only he had not done this, but then again, when a man as good and honorable as Ned Stark shares with you a secret about the royal family, whether you want or not, you become the part of Game of Thrones, so to speak. And the secret turned out to be that all of Robert's legitimate children were bastards of the Queen and her own twin brother. After a bit of thinking, investigation and throwing up at the very idea of it all, Demon decided that with this all being the case, best course of action for him was to immediately go back home and inform his father about it all, plus there were genealogical evidences that Eddard Stark had provided. If only King Robert wasn't gutted by that damn boar and died on the same day, if only Demon wasn't courteous enough to stay and offer condolences. Turns out, Westerosi kingdoms didn't exactly heard about the mourning the dead and traditions, as the very next day, which is today, Lord Stark had tried to seize the throne away from Lannisters, got stopped and put into black cells. And why was Demon involved in all of this? Because he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, which were the throne room and right after the very dethroning attempt. And now he and Urza were surrounded by the Golden Cloaks, King's Guards and Lannister soldiers, with the Queen Regent speaking up to them. Your Imperial Highness, I hope you will forgive us this very unsightly scene. As you bore witness, Lord Eddard Stark has treacherously tried to seize the throne for himself from the rightful king. I am sure that when you write to your father and mother, this will be what you tell them, am I right? Cersei asked of him with a poison-laced voice, with Demon responding to her. Pardon me, milady, but I believe all of us here have saw what really happened. You officially committed an act of treason by destroying the last will of King Robert Baratheon and not following. Attacked the king's hand and had essentially usurped the Iron Throne for your own. Demon looked at the shaking in fury Joffrey and seething Cersei Lannister. And as Crown Prince of Numenor, I confirm that Ned Stark's words are true. Your son and all your other children are nothing more but result of your inbreeding with your own twin Jaime Lannister. The members of the court gasped when Crown Prince had so boldly proclaimed it all, with Cersei speaking up again. Careful with what you are saying, young prince. Right now, your very life depends on whether or not you decide to be cooperative or not with us. Half-dragons or not, you will either support my son's claim by writing a letter to your father, or we will be forced to inform him that Hand of the King, Ned Stark, had conspired with Lord Renly and Stannis to have the Crown Prince of Invaders murdered in his sleep. Cersei dropped all the formalities. I am sure that you will make the right choice and enjoy your prolonged stay in King's Landing in relative safety. Hoping to make me your hostage and use my father to win you this war. You can count me out of this scheme, because Dorne will freeze over 3 times and thaw out 3 times before a black dragon kneels before an inbreed and his inbreeding mother. Demon stated without even showing any fear, before Joffrey rose up in anger and shouted. Kill him. Kill this bastard and his whore bitch. I want their heads on the spikes. Joffrey shouted in near psychotic scream, with Demon simply smirking at him. You made a grave mistake, bastard. Demon simply stated, as 3 of the Kingsguards began to close on him and Urza. Urza was ready to move to intercept them, but Demon stopped her with his hand, before untied the sword of his belt, letting it drop on the floor. When Kingsguard saw it, they laughed at it, as the bravest, or the dumbest one, decided to take a swing at him and sent his sword right down on him. Too bad for him, he had not thought that even if Demon was not a full-born dragon, he was still more dragon than all of Targaryens combined. Catching the sword with his left hand, clothing upon Demon began to change into a plated and scaled armor of black color, covering him completely, made in a fashion of dragon scales, while in his right hand materialized a big black mace with 6 thick, long and sharp flanges. Easily moving away the caught blade, Demon sends his weapon at the Kingsguard and in a single strike, literally destroys his head with his mace, splattering what remained of his head and helmet all over the throne room. Not missing a beat and grabbing his mace with both hands, Demon quickly parries a slashing attack from another Kingsguard and smashes his mace on the side of his helmet, carving right through and crushing the head of the poor sod. The last Kingsguard, having seen this, was already backing away, but unfortunately for him, Demon was faster, with his mace slashing at his legs, making fall down and cry out in pain, as his legs were destroyed utterly, before he was silenced by all 6 flanges piercing his skull. The throne room fell silent, until Demon spoke up. When I was 3, my father had started to teach me how to wield a sword, but I turned out to be quite a bit clumsy for it. Always put too much strength into my swings and strikes, and with my blood, you can imagine the results. Demon took his mace out of the skull of the poor dead Kingsguard. So, instead of teaching me how to wield a sword, he had my grandfather teaching me how to wield a hammer, in which I was much better, but still not fully my own weapon. Finally, on my 5th birthday, King of Dwarves has gifted me this mace. Made of the Aben Mithril, toughest metal in Mountains of Dwarves, this thing weighs about 45 kilograms, which is damn bloody heavy to carry with you, especially in armor like mine, even for me. But, half-dragons are damn fast learners and grow into such things really fast, and so did I. Demon simply stated to Joffrey and others, as he easily put his mace on his shoulder. So, who wants to have a taste it?